Fuck. Arsenal lose to Bournemouth with a red card for Saliba and four other red cards this game week in the Premier League. I'm Arjun. I'm joined by Samarth. Welcome to episode 10 of the Eye Test FC. Have the refs got it right? Samarth, cheers.
Cheers. So let's get into it. How do you feel about Saliba's red?
Straight into it, huh? No respite at all. Yeah, it was a red card. If I consider this game alone, it was a red card, but I have to do Arsenal fans justice and say that it's not been given as a red card in the past. And I've never in my life, in 15 years of watching football, seen Howard Webb do what he did. But fair and square, Arsenal loss. We move on.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, for me, it was just that, a defender of Saliba's caliber should just know that you have the pace to catch the man. Like, no reason to bring him down near the halfway point. I don't see what other option the ref has since it was an inward ball and, the player was through on goal. But Arsenal just kind of looked lackluster all game. Like even before the red, I wouldn't say they were the best team. Like they didn't create that much. And after it, there was not a real leader in the squad that, could get them over the finish line. Just an off day and you move on to the next.
Yeah, true. It's an off day. It's, again, as I said, first competitive loss in this season. So, yeah, we're in end October and we're talking about this first time since we've started podcasting. So, bad day in the office, some injuries. But again, if you need to be champions, you need to win all of these games. So, yeah, we move on to Liverpool next week.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And speaking of another debatable, not so much, but red card in the Liverpool Chelsea game, where do you feel it was similar to the Saliba incident?
Very similar, actually. Arne Slot said that at the end in the press conference as well, that game state wise, context wise, very similar. The actual distance drawn between the two fouls were about 2-3 yards when it was actually measured. Uh, so yeah, even the distance between Colville and White, who were in similar positions, were actually very similar. So yeah, I think if the Arsenal one was a red, then Chelsea should have also been down to 10 men.
Fair enough. And this is me being unbiased, where I thought that the ref did get it right because in the case of the Chelsea red card, the ball was going towards the corner flag, whereas the Saliba one was more inwards. So that's the only point of difference. But let's speak of the game. Let's speak of the player of the week for me, Curtis Jones. Handed an opportunity with McAllister out to South America for the international break, so given a rest on the bench. And what a way to take your opportunity, man. Like just there throughout, defensively, attacking wise, he had saved a goal for a Palmer block, won the penalty, got the goal, and, just was everywhere throughout the pitch.
You know, Samarth, I'm going to make a very controversial statement here on Curtis Jones. I think
Oh, no.
so I think he has to improve his decision making a lot.
Yeah.
I think even for the first goal where he won the penalty, Gakpo was free on the left, and he made a worse pass to Salah. Of course, he won and got the penalty, which is great, but the decision making there he lost him. 2 minutes later, Salah was offside, but actually Salah was trying to hold his run, and Curtis Jones just delayed on the pass. And I think Liverpool could have lost sight in that game much earlier. So I think it was a very good performance with all the stats that you mentioned. But I think Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, these kind of players are really like strong contenders, to start for Liverpool. And I would expect that their decision making can be improved on.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like he has to improve how quickly he releases the ball. That is one aspect where he could definitely improve. But the fact that he was playing in the double pivot as a defensive mid, what he was supposed to do, I think he locked down Chelsea's midfield completely. Like, Chelsea could have played better if Cole Palmer was available. Oh wait, he was, and he completely locked him down and pocketed him. So as obviously definitely improvements to be made, and he's started like this was his first consecutive start in a very, very long time. So
Hmm.
great way to take your opportunity.
But
But yeah.
Samarth, having said that, like I have to say, like Chelsea dominated that first opening, few not even few minutes. Like until Liverpool scored, it was all Chelsea. Like, uh, and that's when I even realized Chelsea's setup was something which I really like teams do. So I remember Chelsea earlier on the season played Man City, I think in the first or second game, and they played with a double pivot. So they played Caicedo and Lavia, and I think now Maresca wants to play big games with a double pivot to control.
Hmm.
And I think it started off really well, right? Because Chelsea really controlled, dominated Liverpool at Anfield, which honestly you cannot say many teams do. Like, forget the score line. Like, when it was 1-0, it was against the run of play, you know?
I think that was the game that Liverpool were going for, because if you see, like, I completely agree that Chelsea dominated the ball. Like, Chelsea had a lot more of the ball, but I think, I don't know if it was intentional, but Chelsea, in spite of having the ball for so long, barely created any chances. So if you see, they got to the defensive line where all four defenders, especially Trent Alexander-Arnold, again for his defensive merits, once again this season,
Yep.
one on one against Sancho, hooked at 50 minutes, gets
Yep.
Pedro Neto on, and he changes the wings as well because he was that
Hmm.
good. So if you see, in spite of the number of touches, or the amount that Chelsea had the ball, they had very little to show for it in terms of actual chances created. And Liverpool played on the counter and dug out to win. It could have been a draw. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Liverpool out and out deserved the victory, but it's these games where it gets difficult at the death of the game, and you have to keep your composure, which I think Liverpool did very well, and they dug out
Hmm.
a good victory for a very tough set of fixtures to come ahead.
Yeah, probably. I think I'm just not used to seeing Liverpool not dominate at home. To Arne Slot's credit, he is getting a stable team set up.
Yeah, at least he knows what he wants to do and who he wants to play with. But speaking of a team that's not looking so stable, Man City, they got a win against Wolves with a last minute clutch goal for John Stones once again. What do we feel about that? A third refereeing decision to talk about.
Yeah, I think like I've stopped analyzing games like individually. I just look at consistency. I don't think this was consistent at all. As much as I don't like City, I think it could have been the goal again if you look at only this game. But if you look at how these decisions have been given in the past, probably not.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think if you look at it very objectively, and this is a Liverpool and City Arsenal fan talking, sorry. As pissed as I was to see that goal go in, looking back on it, I think it was a goal, because when the corner's taken, that's when Bernardo's kind of interfering with the keeper, and by the time it touches his head, which is the point of contact where you check the offside, Bernardo's away from Jose Sar. He has clear view of the ball, of the player. His hands are free, and he's not able to
Hmm.
make the save. So I think the ref gets that one right. And
Okay.
City definitely not deservedly so, but win the game.
Yeah, and some would argue, right? Like that's the mark of champions.
Exactly,
I think it's
right?
a fine line.
I mean, that's what you kind of have to do, like it's either you give the excuses or you just like shut up and win. And that's kind of what champions do. But speaking of them in a negative sense also, and this is my iTest FC play of the week, where Wolves' first goal, man. Just such an amazing all round play from the back, and that Semedo assist. Just
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous ball, striker's dream, and a Norwegian big man, not the one you'd expect, but slots it in.
Yeah. Is he Norwegian or Danish? No, nevertheless, it doesn't matter.
I
But
think I think he's Norwegian, but yeah.
you know, Stan Larson, I think, is one of the few number nines who have come in, kind of unannounced, without much fanfare. And these kind of mid-table teams really need goals. and he's chipped in with quite a few goals, and I think it's a very good find for Wolves as well. And again, man, like I just feel so hard done by. I think now Wolves have played Arsenal, Liverpool, City,
The,
have impressed in all three games, have come
all
out with
three.
nothing,
Yeah.
and are bottom of the league. I think they cannot get relegated. They just cannot get relegated, man.
Yeah,
They're too
we
good.
keep talking about it week after week, but this Wolves team just seems to get unluckier and unluckier.
They
So
find a way to
hopefully,
lose, man. Like how?
yeah, yeah, hopefully it gets better from there. But speaking of another team battling relegation that came back from 2 goals down, and my game of the week, Leicester versus Southampton. So much to unpack in that game, very honestly.
Yeah, so much to unpack. And I love these kind of games that where a team goes 2-0 up, end up losing 3-2 at home. Like it's just those classic Premier League outings, especially when it's considered like a relegation six-pointer. Not really
Hmm.
six-pointers so early in the season, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Um, First, let's talk about the two Southampton goals, right? Both well worked, well taken goals, but
very
both were
similar, kind of similar.
from one side. It just felt
Yeah.
like a carbon copy a little bit. Probably something that Leicester need to work on.
Hmm.
But after that, completely different game,
What a way
right?
to come back. And honestly, they could have had a 3-2 comeback before they even scored the first goal. Like they hit
Hmm.
the post and they created so many chances. But in the end, they broke through and got the first. And then after that, the entire play that led to the penalty, what a shot by Fatu to kind of hit the post and
Hmm.
comes back. Amazing save from Ramsdale. And then
Ramsdale, yeah.
Fraser, yeah, and then Fraser pulls
Pulls.
off Vardy's shirt, which I think is rightfully a red card,
Yep.
and that's a penalty and
Yep.
brings Leicester back into the game.
Yeah, and I think even the third goal, the winner, it first of all, I had no idea that Ayu played for Leicester. Firstly, no idea. I lost this completely in like transfer season, um, and then this seems so much like as an Arsenal fan, like I got PTSD watching that Ramsdale like flapping at it, because it felt like they could have held
Yeah,
on to a point at home and he just like
yeah.
flapped it in the near post after making a world class save.
It was very soft.
So
Like for
frustrating.
that,
Yeah.
and honestly, I mean, I feel for Southampton fans because in that game there could have been refs that would have blown the whistle before the corner.
Mm.
It was at that point where the allotted time was kind of done for and the ref was being generous, and
Yep.
unfortunate, and also the Archer penalty as well. I feel like that's
Mm.
one incident where, like, if Fraser gets that penalty, not getting sent off obviously, but
Yep.
Archer deserves one as well. His shirt was
Yep.
very very clearly pulled, and it's we hate that players dive in games, but you also see that when they don't fall to the ground, what happens? Refs just don't
Yeah.
give you the foul.
Yeah. It's a bit unfortunate, right?
And speaking of the last big red card bash, I would say Villa versus Fulham, where they had one red card each.
Yep.
Villa's coming way at the end, so they got a comfortable 3-1 lead by that time, and
Yep.
a save for Emi Martinez as well for penalty.
Yeah, and this actually Joachim Anderson's red card. Both of us will agree, I'm sure, that that was a
It's a
nailed
red.
on red card.
Yeah.
This is like what textbook red card is.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's also unfortunate, right? Because if Pereira had slotted that penalty, it was 2-1 Fulham, very
Yeah.
different game. But yeah, that's football, and Villa with a very statement win, actually, a huge statement win at Craven Cottage. So yeah, well done to Unai Emery.
Yeah, for sure. The good results keep coming. And speaking of a team with an unlikely good result, Man United. Just when you think they're going to do it again, they've actually come back this time and gone on to win the game against informed Brentford side.
Yeah, after going a goal down at home, you can feel the dark cloud circle. Like it's one of those typical games where United go 1-0 down and then it ends 3-0 freak result to Brentford. But
Hmm.
fair play. Like I think
Yeah, fair
actually
play.
showing I'm unbiased, right? My player of the
Hmm.
week and nah, my play of the week and goal of the week are both from that first goal by Rashford for that half space cross into Garnacho, who then like volleys it home. I think in that moment, I think there was so much tension in the stadium that really uh, changed the momentum of the game. So yeah, fair play. United win at home after a while, I guess. Uh,
Yeah, and they just, need to keep this momentum going and like build on this result and keep churning out results in the near
do
future.
do you think that's sustainable though?
I mean, at this point, United will just take anything they get, right? Like, obviously, in an
Hmm.
ideal world, you'd want to see them playing um, good football with like some sort of a set gameplay and stuff like that. But right now, I think even for what's more important is the results that, they're not really getting. And however they can get them, I feel like any United fan is going to take like sad football and victory over set gameplays and draws. So I think for them, getting the points is going to be more valuable because they're already so far down in the table.
Yeah, fair enough. I think they need to build, but I think when you build, you always need to build with an identity. Otherwise, you're just putting a band-aid on a car crash, right? Like, and
Yeah, for sure.
you really need to have like some stability. Marcus Rashford, not bad performance, honestly
Hmm.
speaking. Uh, Nothing else really to say about a United win at home where they edge out Brentford. So
Good for them. And speaking of Spurs as well, again, need to strengthen defensively. I think
yeah,
going a goal down again, not great, but good character to come back. And Son, speaking of him, after quite some time, with coming
yeah,
with 2 goals.
yeah. I completely agree. I think what a week, right? What a lovely week. Spurs and Man United win while Arsenal lose. Uh, but no, honestly, we haven't spoken about Son in a while, and look, I consider him like a very, very talented winger. But we haven't spoken about Son for the last like 2 years, really. And he's had flashes here and there, but really good game. But you need more from him as captain again.
Yeah, like if Spurs are going to break through into the Champions League spots, I think Son has to become that talisman and produce this week
Hmm.
in, week out. And like again, that this is another game that had a red card, which I completely overshadowed. Very clear red for Kudus once again. The
Yeah,
man's just slapping people
yeah.
um,
Arsenal
after stepping
legend.
on them. Yeah,
Arsenal
sure.
legend. Bring him to the Emirates. He watched Arsenal PSG and then he slapped two Tottenham players. What better backup for Saka? but
But
also
yeah,
like but also, I'm not shitting on Tottenham, but man, like they beat West Ham, who are like really, really struggling. Like they're talking about sacking Lopetegui like a third into the season. So it's not like
which is
they
so
beat a really
surprising also,
informed.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
Like
surprising.
it's more surprising from West Ham's point of view of how like flat they've been the entire season. And
Yeah.
we'd kind of spoken about this when Chelsea won away against West Ham, that it was kind of a surprise. Now, like a couple games later, and they're still losing, and it's just becoming the norm for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I am hearing like names like Graham Potter. Uh,
Now that the
let's see.
England job's gone to Tuchel, maybe. And speaking of Graham Potter and his former club, Brighton beat Newcastle away from home, and an away win for Everton as well against Ipswich. And that's that for this game week. Next game week, though, now we got a game coming up. Arsenal take on Liverpool at the Emirates Stadium. Clash of the Titans.
Who's gonna win all the bragging rights? See you next week in the ITEST FC studio.